We're going to go ahead and start this meeting of finance, and we don't need to establish a quorum on this, but we will be. The clerk will be keeping a running record of our members as they are here. As you're all aware, we have a number of conflicts this afternoon, and so and actually Senator Norman was scheduled to be chairing here, but I'm going to go ahead and chair it because he has a conflict right at the moment. And we'll go ahead and start moving. For the members that are here, we have a couple books with it in, but you can also use your iPads to scroll through as I'm going to. It's pretty handy now. All the amendments have been posted online now, so we can access them. Senator Edwards, you're first, and then I'm going to, Senator Serval was in the room and is going to have to be gone, so I'll go ahead and take you and then run Senator Serval in, and we've got a list right here to go down. So Senator Edwards, we'll hear from you on your priorities.
Yes, Mr. Chairman, members of the committee, you'll be happy to know I'm not going to go through all of them, but there are a couple of them I would like to mention in my 3 minutes. First one has to do with Virginia Western Community College and the Virginia Community College system. As you may know or read, Radford University is acquiring the Jefferson College of Health Sciences, and most of the programs will be under the umbrella of Radford University, and the Jefferson College will basically, their board will go out of existence. It's kind of a merger. There are 3 programs, however, that are not appropriate for the Radford University, but rather more appropriate to the Virginia Western Community College. And these are the Physical Therapy Assistant Associates Program, Occupational Therapy Assistant Associates Program, and Surgical Technology. In order to transfer those to the community college system, we need just $347,636, of which part of it, namely $134,000, is a one-time general fund money that would go to the community college to hire the program faculty, which is a requirement for the accrediting agency. And then that money, that also the funding would go to get accreditation for the community college to operate these 3 associates programs. And then of that, in addition, $213,636 will be used annually. It's reoccurring in order to operate the programs. They first of all have to hire the faculty, and that would be part of that, and that's necessary in order to get the accreditation. But the rest of another component of this is to make up the tuition differential. At Virginia Western Community College, the tuition is about 20% of the tuition at Jefferson College and 20% of the tuition at Radford University. To keep the tuition down at the community colleges, as we do, they need the additional funding to make up that differential. So it's, again, $134,000 one time and $213,636 annually because of the tuition differential. And it's a good program, and I appreciate you considering this. Ellen Davenport with the community college system is here, and Lisa Redpath with Virginia Western Community College is here to give you any further information.
Okay, thank you.
The only other thing I'd want to mention is this. I'm asking for $75,000 for an Amtrak connector bus between Roanoke and Clifton Forge. This would be to connect the Amtrak train that goes from Charlottesville to Clifton Forge to Charleston, West Virginia, and on to Chicago, I think it is. And right now, there's no easy way for people to go and drive their car, of course, or whatever, but it's only about 45 miles. But this would help not only Roanoke, but the people who live in Botetourt County, and also in Clifton Forge coming back and forth. It's both the Roanoke Valley, the Botetourt County people, and also the Allegheny County people in Clifton Forge. Terry Austin has a similar budget amendment in for the people in Botetourt County, which are it would help them a lot too to have this connector bus. It's only $75,000.
Okay. All right. Okay. And we see your others here. Thank you.
All the others, and please give them every consideration.
Okay. Thank you, Senator Edwards. We appreciate that. Senator Serval?
I have five that I would like you to look at. 3 of them are together as one. So the first one, right up there, number 41, 5S. That's easy. That's a 12th General District Court judge in Fairfax County, Senator Howell is very familiar with that. It was certified by the district court committee. It's desperately needed. It's just one more judge in Fairfax County. And I'm sure she'll be happy to fill you in on that. The second one, 126-1S. The United States, the Foundation for the United States Army is building the United States Army Museum right now, right off of I-95 in Fort Belvoir. It's a $200 million project. It's projected to bring between 500,000 and 750,000 tourists to Virginia every year when it opens. It's about 10 minutes or 20 minutes without traffic north of the Marine Corps Museum, right next to Mount Vernon, and it's a wonderful tourism development opportunity for the Commonwealth to develop a military tourism program. This body gave the Marine Corps Museum $1.7 million about 11 or 12 years ago, back before the Cuccinelli rule went into effect. And what this amendment would do would create a $5 million program to be matched, grant program through the Tourism Authority to be matched by private donors to feature VMI and the Virginia Cadet Corps and Virginia's role in the development of the United States Army, especially the Civil War, at the museum. Virginia has played an integral role in the development of the U.S. Army, including having the very first Army general ever, General Washington. And they're about $30 million short of their fundraising, and this would help them close that gap by a third. And it would bring tourists to Virginia, 500 to 750,000 tourists a year. So that's what.
But the federal investment is happening. It's already in place.
It's all private. It's 100% private.
100% private?
Yeah. I don't think there's any federal money in it.
Okay.
Yeah. I think the Marine Corps Museum was the same deal. The National Museum of the Marine Corps, I think, was built entirely with private investment. The next one is 4045-4S I'll bring up. That's a bill for a $2 million transit study to study bringing the blue line, extending the blue line from Franconia Springfield down to Prince William County. That wouldn't happen for about 15 or 20 years. But if you all remember, this committee approved a similar $2 million study to extend the yellow line. Senator Colgan and Senator Polar got it through back in 2011. And it takes about 10 or 15 years to get the land use in place for this to happen. And we did the same thing with the yellow line. DRPT led the study. They hired a consultant, gave us a roadmap, and right now we've done wonderful progress on that in the yellow line corridor. But the blue line, which is more along I-95, is desperately needed. And it's a lot cheaper. Rail's a lot cheaper, better than continuing to widen all these roads and stuff. And this is just would get the process started. And it's a big priority to all of us in Prince William County, the entire Eastern Prince William delegation. And Senator Barker, I'm sure, can tell you all about it, too. Then the next one I have is C27.21S. It's pretty simple. This is just fund phases 2 and 3 of construction at Widewater State Park. That's our newest state park, which opened this year. We funded phases 1. Phase 2 and 3 have not been funded yet. It's about $29 million. But, you know, it would fund campgrounds, cottages, and to fully build out the park and make the park, this public asset, fully usable, we need to finish phases 2 and 3. So I don't know where the committee is going to stand on capital expenditures this year, but we could really use that.
It's my understanding there's a little bit of money still in DCR to begin phase 2, that maybe we may need to look at this next year if we do a large bill.
Okay.
But we'll look at it.
Great. But it's the only public water access in Stafford County. And the last one I just want to highlight is 3 different amendments, which are all interrelated. It's kind of like a pick your poison. That's those sex offender ones you see up there, 381, 390, those 3 there. And basically what these 3 are, a Fairfax County Circuit Court judge brought this to my attention, that we all know how expensive it is for us to rehabilitate these sex offenders that go to the civil commitment after they get out of jail. They're way more expensive than the people who are held in prison. And this Fairfax Circuit judge pointed out to me that he was told that for some reason we don't try to give any of these sex offenders therapy while they're in prison. We wait till they get out. But if we gave them therapy while they were in prison, we wouldn't have to keep them in the civil offender therapy nearly as long. And we would save a lot of money if we would spend more money trying to give them therapy in jail instead of waiting until they get out. And so these amendments, one of them is just a study. One is to hire 1 position in a study, and the other one is to hire the 3 positions that DOC estimated it would take. But I think we could spend $200,000 on the front end and maybe save millions on the back end if we could get these sex offenders treatment while they're being held in the prison before they're released and then civilly committed in the sex offender facility, which we're paying like crazy for. So, I mean, at a minimum, I think we really ought to study this and look at it hard. At a maximum, I think we could pay for one position and study it and see how much money we save and then go all in later. But I think it would really be a prudent thing for us to look at doing this. Again, it was brought to my attention by a circuit court judge after he went through judicial training, and the corrections people pointed this out to him. They just didn't understand why we weren't doing this. So,
Yeah, we've got some issues there.
yeah.
Okay.
Okay. So those are my 5. And I have a few others, but they're sort of fiscal impact statements on little bills and things, and I
Right,
hope
we
you'll
see 'em.
support those as well.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you, Senator Servo. Certainly, you've got some good points there. Let's see here. Senator Chase in the room? There you are, Senator Chase. Good afternoon.
Good afternoon, Mr. Chairman, members of the committee. Which one are we going to start with? Do you want to do item 366, number 4?
All right.
There we go. This bill pertains to the coal ash legislation that we've been talking about. We're, of course, moving forward with the governor's coal ash bill, and I've signed on as a patron for that, but this is a backup to that. This is actually the North Carolina bill that was submitted. They used to actually clean the coal ash up in North Carolina, and we've worked with the former House Speaker of North Carolina that actually submitted the bill, and this is that bill, and this is the impact statement that would result from coal ash cleanup with that bill.
So you have a bill separate from the one that's advancing that the governor?
Correct. I'm a patron on that one, and then this is my bill that I put in.
Okay, I got you. Okay.
The next one is item 206, 1S, $20 million for Virginia Commonwealth University. This actually goes to the Massey Cancer Center. I think cancer is a bipartisan issue, and it's something very important to the constituents in my district. Item 08S. This has to do with the Thomas Jefferson Institute tax conformity bill. And this bill basically looks at reducing the corporate income tax from 6% to 5.5%, and then doubling the standard deduction. Item 474-15S.
Can I ask you a question?
Yeah, sure. Absolutely.
Yes,
I'm
Senator
not a
Sasslaw?
single, I suspect I've got a lot more corporations in my area than you do in yours. And I've asked them about that, and they said, we're not asking for any income tax relief. And with the exception of North Carolina, all of the states around us have a higher corporate income tax. So in North Carolina, with that HB2 that they passed a couple of years ago, that probably damaged them for the next 3 or 4 decades. So, you know, companies aren't looking at them anyway as a result of that. Amazon chose us. They know what the taxes are in Virginia. In fact, they've got $29 billion already invested in the state with 10,000 employees. Why do we need to reduce their taxes? They haven't asked for it.
Well, actually, I'll tell you, I submitted a bill my first year in office to lower the corporate income tax from 6% to 2.5% to be competitive with North Carolina. They eventually phased theirs out. And so, you know, I'm looking at bringing corporations here that are looking to move here. I know a number of corporations moved to Texas, also to North Carolina because of the corporate. I don't know if it's just because of the corporate income tax, but it definitely makes it look more attractive. And it's also similar to what the president submitted with the Federal Tax and Jobs Act. And it's in line with that. It parallels it. It's conformity, but at the same time, it doubles the corporate income tax. Doubles the standard deduction, which is what they did at the federal level. And then at the federal level, they also lowered the corporate income tax. So it's just kind of mirroring what we did at the federal level.
Yeah,
Okay.
At the corporate level, at the
Sure,
federal level, if you remember, it was 36%. And
Sure.
which is pretty high. I wouldn't have gone as low as they did. But the point that I'm trying to make, Senator Chase, is that I've been here a long, long time. Not a single company has ever asked me to lower the corporate income tax. I mean, they're standing in line to move into the state.
Well, I know the governor supported it last year and the year before. They were looking to lower the corporate income tax, and they liked it.
Okay.
So I appreciate the
Okay. All right.
difference in opinion there.
Mr. Chairman, let me ask you this.
Well, that's,
Do you have a tax increase to pay for?
Well, actually, I have some revenues that were generated from doubling if you look at the, which one was it? Yeah, actually, there are estimated revenues projected from this bill. $21 billion is, if you look at.
You're looking at it as an
1143.
economic incentive for the
Right.
Commonwealth, based on that, right?
Right,
Right, I think you'd have a difference of opinion, Senator Saslaw, but that's
I
what
have
she's
3
trying
minutes,
to
so
do.
I want to get to
Okay.
my last one. I've got 2 more.
Okay,
So item 474, number 15S. This is basically to address the teacher shortage and to extend the sunset clause that would basically allow our retired teachers to return to teaching without losing their benefits. And then finally, item 391. This has to do with the hoax crime bill that passed unanimously out of the Senate today and just provides money for that in the form of $50,000.
okay,
That's it.
okay. Thank you, Senator Chase.
Thank you.
We appreciate your initiatives, and we will be reviewing them.
Appreciate it. Thank you.
All right, let's see here. Senator McClellan, you were up next. Yeah, thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I want to group mine, and I know last year I broke the bank with my budget amendments. This year, I might have again, but.
You are in there again, followed by me.
There's a reason for that, and that is the first budget amendment I want to focus on is item 13618S, which is a repeat from last year.
Okay.
This is the amendment that would eliminate the cap on support personnel in our K-12 schools, which, as you recall, we put in place during the recession to balance the budget. We have never lifted it, and I purposefully put this amount in so that we can see what we need to do to fully fund all of our K-12 needs at the levels we were prior to the recession. And the reason the support personnel cap has really hindered our schools is the localities have not been able to fill these positions without the state funding. And we have seen a direct impact on a wide variety of things. Teachers who are having to do jobs that used to be performed by support personnel, school counselors that are having to do some of these jobs. So this is the total amount that we would need if we wanted to lift the cap altogether. Knowing we probably don't have that much money, I asked the schools to prioritize what positions they want. And so in order, I just want to highlight item 13611S, which is the SOQ ratio for, oh, that's not the right order, I'm sorry. 13614S, which is the ratio for school social workers. 13613S, which is the SOQ ratio for school nurses.
Okay.
13615S, which is the ratio for school psychologists. 13612S is the ratio for elementary principals. 13611S is the ratio for assistant principals. And each of these amendments would put those ratios at the levels that were recommended by the Board of Education. And then item 13616S would change the funding formula to the higher of the statewide average per pupil costs for all divisions, or the actual division per pupil costs for any division in an MOU with the Board of Ed. I have here Jason Cameras, the superintendent from the city of Richmond, who would like to speak to why these amendments in this priority, if we can't get the full cap lifted, this is really the priority and why.
Okay. Mr. McClellan, we'll take a couple minutes for that. Good afternoon.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thank you, Senator McClellan. I will be brief and direct. I'm often asked, why do we need this cap to be lifted? And I can share a few very quick vignettes from my short time here as superintendent of Richmond Public Schools. I'm asked, why do we need more psychologists? Well, in less than a year that I have been superintendent, I have already lost half a dozen students to gun violence, including one of our young girls at age 4. Why do we need more nurses? Because I have students whose injections and medications have to be delayed because we only have a part-time nurse at many of our schools. Why do we need more social workers? Because over 10% of my students experience homelessness every single year. I could go on, but the reality for so many of our young people, not just in Richmond, but around the state, in rural areas and in suburban areas, all across the Commonwealth, face unspeakable challenges in their lives, and we are not providing them with adequate support. We are not providing our teachers with adequate support to meet the needs of our young people. And I would say, frankly, it's immoral and unjust. Since the recession, funding for our schools is down, and yet the number of students in the Commonwealth is up. You don't have to be a math teacher, though I was one, to know that that equation just does not balance. And so I urge this committee to seriously consider these amendments and many others that have been put forward to support the young people of the Commonwealth. Thank you.
Thank you. Appreciate you taking time to come here this afternoon.
Thank you.
Senator McClellan?
And then very quickly, I'd like to just highlight item 13617S. Last year, I had legislation to put in place a school climate survey, which passed the Senate, did not pass the House, but thanks to the efforts of Senator Newman, the language was put in the budget. That amendment adds funding that the Department of Education requested to implement that. Item 204-2S is a VCU building, the new College of Health Professions. The Department of Planning and Budget admits that they just missed funding for this new building. And so that was put in as their request. And those are the amendments that I would highlight today.
Okay. Thank you very much, Senator McClellan. You focused on public education with your amendments and
Yes.
had a similar, well, dissimilar approach actually in the thought of increasing the state share of SOQ funding from 55 to 60%. And that was like $400 and some million a year. But your range of amendments here would kind of put it in that category.
Yep.
Okay.
Well, thank you. Well, I did at least prioritize them if we can't get the whole thing. So.
All right. Thank you. Senator Eben, you're up next.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. And I actually brought you a handout for one because I know that you get excited about those. You may not have had them before. Okay, so first, item number 1, 3S, is establishing a stakeholder group on election funding. And this would direct the chairs of the House and Senate committees on P&E to convene a stakeholder group. What we want to do is have an eye towards modernizing our system and what our needs are. You know that we've all heard about Veris and the failures or inadequacies at different times of that system. This would be a way to kind of gather together the information from the experts out of session and see what's needed. And it's a language amendment. Then, and it refers to some of the stakeholders as well in that language amendment. The second eliminates a $2 million transfer from the communication, sales, and use tax. It was intended to be for, I believe, for local government rather than to general fund, or actually for the Department of Deaf and Hard of Hearing telephone relay. There's reconciling some savings, and it was taken from localities when it went, and it's into the general fund now. So we're hoping that you'll consider that, letting localities have those funds again. Now, next, item 83, number 4S, is part of a campaign finance reform bill I have. It would allow us to implement it if we wanted to have some compliance with limits on contributions to campaigns. Next, 837S is for something called ranked choice voting, which would be a local option to allow localities where they want to, if they have a 5 or 7-way election or primary, for local government only as a pilot. It would allow them to work with the state board, and the $60,000 would be so that the localities would be charged for the costs that were incurred, but it would allow this to be facilitated through the Board of Elections. Finally, I've got, or not finally, I've got Michelle White here from the registrars, and this has to do with funding for general registrar salaries. Right now, there's quite a disparity in some localities between what, say, a treasurer makes and the general registrar, and she can give you just a dollar range about that, if you would. Is that okay, sir?
Sure, we'd be pleased to hear some brief remarks, yes.
Thank you, Senator.
Thank you for being here.
Thank you. Michelle White, Director of Elections for Prince William County. I can tell you that the Registrars Association of Virginia is looking for compensation parity. The example that we're specifically talking about is a registrar in most localities makes $48,000. The treasurer in the same locality working with the same voting population makes over $100,000. So we're simply asking for parity in our compensation. Our duties have changed drastically since 1976. We're now responsible for voting equipment, training officers of election, cybersecurity, polling places. We're no longer just a voter registration office open for in-person voter registration. We now have online voter registration duties and also mail voter registration duties. So our duties have significantly increased while our pay has been stagnant. So just wanted to bring that all to your attention. Thank you.
Okay. Do you get local supplement, I presume?
No, sir, we do not.
Well, in some localities.
Some localities.
You're in
we
Prince
do.
William?
Yes, sir, I am.
Okay, well, you're busy then. You got a big
Yes,
growing
sir,
county.
I
Yeah.
am.
Okay, all right.
Mr. Hanger.
Yeah.
But I'm here to speak behalf on all registrars in the
Okay.
Commonwealth, and that we are simply asking for a compensation parity.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
And I would just point out, sir, that these registrars have to have knowledge of 428 election laws in our code, FOIA compliance, GIS coordination. We've seen in recent elections how important it is that voters be assigned to the correct district. We also know that if elections are moving along swimmingly, that no one complains. But when there are long lines, and if there's a catastrophic failure, they're going to take the blame, and we need quality people in that position. I say that and the technology at the state level are probably the two most important things that allow for smooth elections.
Mr. Chair,
Yes, Senator Vogel?
if I may, this also overlaps with a budget amendment that I have introduced, and I was concerned when I saw that Michelle was here that this was not the appropriate time for members to actually discuss their budget amendments, but I just wanted to echo the comments made by Michelle and by Senator Eben, that the registrars find themselves in a uniquely difficult position where they bear a disproportionate amount of the burden for new technologies, changes in the law, and we've never actually gone back to address that disparity with their compensation. And I do believe it has an impact on elections when we have a hard time getting people.
Well, I appreciate you adding that, Senator Vogel, because you know more about it than I do, chairing the committee there, so.
And more about it than me.
Yeah, okay.
Thank you. Thanks. As we move to line 84.22S, line of credit for the next two amendments are both for 911 service with next generation capabilities. This has to do with when you get 911 service from your cell phone. We need to accelerate a line of credit, and this would allow the Secretary of Finance, Secretary of Commerce and Trade to approve drawdowns for this line of credit. And then the next amendment would allow the 911 Services Board to continue to pay wireless carriers until the Commonwealth transitions to the next generation 911. We changed the law last year, and we anticipated the old funding process would be eliminated sooner. This allows the board to deal with this delay and potential future delays. Then the next amendment is the one I gave you the handout for, the commemoration of women's suffrage. And I did list the members of the commission. I don't want to represent that this amendment is from each member of the commission, although you see there's quite a few co-patrons within the Senate. I put in for $750,000 so that we could have a number of activities. We did not meet at all in the previous calendar year because the 50,000 or so that we thought would be in the budget was not included. And what this does is allow us to commemorate the centennial of women's suffrage in the appropriate way with exhibitions, statewide education programs, community engagement, public programs, publications. We want kids to be able to come to Richmond to learn about suffrage when they're visiting the Virginia Historical Society. We want there to be traveling exhibits, so in localities throughout the state, we're not going to be able to hit 132 localities, but we want it to be accessible to people who might not be coming to Richmond. We want there to be publications so teachers who want a curriculum can have one. We've done tens of millions for other commemorations. I don't know what we did for War of 1812, but I believe this is significantly less. And that's what that's about that you have before you. The next three items, 391, 10, 11, and 20S, have to do with expansion or new crimes. The first has to do with Senate Bill 1276. This would allow us to make a Class 6 felony to abuse an animal with the intent to harass or terrorize a family or household member. It's going to be heard across the hall in a few minutes. We've seen people decapitate a dog. We've seen them stab an animal to death a few days before stabbing their girlfriend to death, and similar situations that we would like to have a Class 6 felony before it becomes a murder of a human being. And we know there's a great correlation between torturing someone's animal to get back at them in a domestic relationship and then moving on to more damage to the person and trying to keep them from getting services right up front. The next, similarly a crime, would be to expand the definition of a dating relationship. Right now we've got family or household member, and we're still working on the bill, but the main piece that we want to hit is a dating relationship. Right now, if you live with someone, your romantic partner, you're covered. If you're dating and you stalk them or they don't want to date you anymore, you're not covered. We'd like to move in the direction of a number of other states and do that. And finally, number 391-20S, it has to do with our existing revenge porn statute. There's something now that people have come up with, technology that has sunk to a new low called deep fake, which what it is any one of the members of this committee or anyone in public life or anyone who's got a Facebook page has multiple photos of them in the public domain. And they can take those photos and, believe it or not, they can make realistic 3D images of you engaged in activities that you'd never engaged in, never wanted to be portrayed on the internet as having engaged in, and that defame you. And we'd like to make that a specific crime to prevent that. It has happened, and we'd like to see that it doesn't again. I think, I apologize. No, these are just the originals. Okay, that is all that I've got for you.
appears to be there.
I don't know if
Okay.
there are any questions.
Okay. Thank you, Senator Evans.
Okay.
We appreciate
Thank you,
you
Senators.
taking time to share this with us.
Sure thing.
I had Senator Peake next. I don't see him. I don't see Senator Suderline. Senator Reeves, you're here.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'll be really brief. The first one I have for you is the one that has to do with Brandy Station and Cedar Mountain Battlefields. It was supposed to go in last year, it didn't get in there. It's language only. If we could see that gets done, the American Battlefield Trust would be thrilled. Mr. Chairman, members of the committee, I am thrilled to be standing here today about my next two budget amendments. One of them has to do with Lyme disease, and you all know that whole thing. Well, we have some great progress that's been made on that. They are all at the point where they're going to the Food and Drug Administration. They're going to start some testing, and they need an additional $100,000. I couldn't be more thrilled with what's happening there. It's put George Mason on the map as leading in the country for Lyme's disease. So if we could get that out, those folks would appreciate that. The next one I have, and I'll call them out, I think that was 164 4S. The next one I think is something that's near and dear to my heart and to many of you too. And again, it has to do with Mason and its Veterans in the Arts Initiative. They have taken the generous funds that we have given them and multiplied them through private and corporate contributions. They are only asking that we continue our regular state support for that, but they've had tremendous, they've actually honestly outcapacitated themselves with the amount of veterans that they have. That thing is going gangbusters, so they're looking for another $150,000. If we can continue to support that, they're making themselves available. There's actually a wait list and some other things going on there. After that is 416, number 1S. It comes at the request of the Department of Military Affairs. The National Guard is valiantly trying to keep their members. In testimony, the bill has passed unopposed to the body so far going to the floor. We might have passed it today, actually. But it's going to make sure that our E1s get paid as E6s and that they're not making below minimum wage when they're deployed for state active duty. So it's a state active duty pay thing. After that is I have some language only, 451, number 1S for Culpeper. Mr. Chairman, you share that part with the Culpeper National Cemetery off of Route 29, a sign. The Transportation Board says that they can absorb that cost. And then one more in our district, Mr. Chairman, is a historical marker that we need put back up. It's $1,945. That's 453, number 5S. And I would request that heavy lift if we could get that one done. And other than that, Mr. Chairman, I am done.
Okay. Appreciate your sharing with us. You've got some good ones there that we need to work on together, I think.
Yes, sir.
Right.
Thank you.
Okay. Let's see here. I don't see the others in there. I'm going to just go by who I see right now. Senator Pavola, and then followed by Senator Boyski.
Morning, Mr. Chair. Good afternoon. I tried to contain myself, but I'm only going to go over the budget amendments that are really, really, really important to me. They're all important, but I will prioritize for you. I do have two amendments dealing with education. One is item 2011, 1S, and that would provide a pilot program for a debt-free community college experience in the Northern Virginia area. And as you can see, a student would have to have completed the FAFSA and drawn down eligible financial aid, including the Pell Grant, and have a GPA of 2.0. The point of this pilot, though, would be creating opportunities in high-need workforce tracks. And then that same concept I take statewide, and the statewide for the community college system only, and that's item 2011, number 2, small s. The estimated amount of $77 million really is based on students going part-time, because that tends to be what the majority of community college students do. I think those are really important initiatives, especially given the fact that Amazon is coming and we want to create a strong workforce every place in the Commonwealth, and we want to ensure that we can attract good jobs every place in the Commonwealth. So I think those two proposals are really good, and I'm happy to just go with the statewide one. I'm now moving to sort of behavioral health and newborn visitation programs. This item is really important to me. It's item 303, number 29S. What it will do is direct the Department of Medical Assistance to create a program where our newborns, our newborns born to Medicaid mothers who have had a substance use disorder, make sure they get home visits. There would also be some case management services. I accompanied the First Lady to the Hunt Institute to learn about early childhood education, and we were told pretty emphatically that between the ages of 0 and 3, you'd make the most impact in a child's life, and actually good parenting in a healthy environment cannot be overstated. I'm going to move to TANF and foster care, and I have quite a few bills under TANF, which would be using our TANF dollars. For several years now, we have been studying TANF, the Commission on Youth, and I chaired a work group on TANF. And one of my proposals is to move Group 2 into Group 3, so we will only have one category of TANF payments. The administration believes this is a good thing to do, and in fact, looking at the members on the committee and the jurisdictions they represent, nearly all of you, except the Northern Virginia jurisdictions, which are already in Group 3, would be moving over to Group 3, and that would mean for a family of 3, approximately a $73 increase in the monthly TANF payment, but we would have one category. Then I would like to provide item 34-1. Number 3S, I think it's really important to provide case management services to our foster children once they're reunited with their families, and their families are still vulnerable. They may still be dysfunctional, in fact. So I'd like to extend this for 12 months. The Commission on Youth came up with a recommendation on driver's license program for foster youth. We found that many of our foster youth never achieve a driver's license, and it really impedes their ability to, select educational opportunities and job opportunities. And it's part of this plan under Fostering Futures for we would call a normalcy experience, and most young people do get their licenses. So we'd like to enable our foster youth to do that. Let's see, and then the other really important thing is item 346. This is the Road to Success program in Virginia. We have funded this before, and the community college system uses these dollars to support TANF recipients who sometimes have emergencies, can't get transportation to and from college, may need emergency childcare services, et cetera, et cetera. And then this is a very high priority, item 340, number 3S. We're asking for $3 million from the TANF fund to extend child care services to individuals who are going to school. Right now, the law, this is after they complete TANF, so they're actually in the VIEW program, and our child care services only apply if they're working. And we have found that for our TANF moms to really secure employment that they can sustain a family on, they have to go to college. So this would provide child care services while they're in school. So those are my top priorities. Unfortunately, I put in other budget amendments, but I tried to be a little sensitive about the general fund. And if we do ask for TANF dollars, we're directing them to TANF recipients, which I think is really important. We're trying not to fund other, which we would call Category 3 areas. There's about $30 million a year in TANF money goes to support other very worthwhile and noble programs, but they don't have a direct impact on TANF recipients. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Senator Favola, for your initiatives there. Let's see. I don't believe Senator Peake is in the room yet. Is he back behind that? Okay, Senator Peake. Go. Good afternoon.
Mr. Chairman, good afternoon. How are you today?
I'm doing pretty good at the moment.
Good. Good. I hope everybody's in a great mood. Doesn't sound like it.
Well, we're sedated somewhat.
Well, I hope I can wake y'all up. Let's spend some money. Let's appropriate some budget. Let's get going. Which one are y'all got a preference for me, or you can call it up? Okay.
Yeah,
Usually y'all tell me what I'm gonna
We're
do.
ready to go. We've got a copy of what you want to do.
Let's go with item number C850 Longwood University.
Okay?
This is non-general fund, $2,163,000. So this is not coming out of our funds, it's coming out of money that Longwood currently has. This would allow them to plan a replacement for Weigel Hall. It's their 50-year-old, long-serving music education center and performance venue. They have over 600 students a year taught at Weigel. And they have a proposed location of a replacement building, which is at the current Bristow site. They need to use this money to prepare, to study that site and to budget for the new building. I know I did this last year with Longwood, approximately $250,000. I know it's against this committee's normal procedure to allocate these non-general funds until the money is allocated for the actual building. But I think in the case of Longwood, we did it last year. They have conducted the appropriate study. I think they will conduct the appropriate study for the design of this building, and that would then allow them to plan for the replacement of Weigel Hall. So that
Right,
is that.
just a quick comment on that. When we allow that to happen, the problem being if we're not ready then to follow through with detailed planning and those plans get stale that you've developed using your own funds, then doesn't work so well. We've got to be ready to queue it on up and run it through the process.
And I understand, and I know we dealt with that, but
Yeah.
that is, and
Right.
I will say they have the plan, we just have not appropriated the money, so,
Yeah.
and that will
Okay.
be the issue.
Okay.
I understand, Mr. Chairman.
Okay?
Something was ringing, it wasn't me. Okay, next one, let's go with item number 366. The ammonia criteria report. And while we have I don't see any budget issue there. I know we had to amend that report in case there was a change. And so this is the DEQ has asked us to provide some additional details. And so this is just a follow-up of a bill that we passed last year. And so what we are asking to do is include all existing or potential permitting procedures and practices that are not prohibited by the Clean Water Act, but which would provide relief to permitted dischargers, which is in the attachment of the budget amendment. So we're actually just doing some budget language. This is budget cleanup
Right.
in that proposal. Any questions on that one?
I think we'll have Jason take a good look at that one, and then the subcommittee will look at it.
Okay. Here's a big one. Item number 362. Fortunately, I believe Senator Newman, the senator from Bedford, has a similar proposal. This is 362, $5 million request from the Department of Conservation and Recreation under Land Resource Management. This budget amendment provides matching funds to enable the city of Lynchburg to meet its water quality standards and repair the College Lake Dam, which was damaged in the August 2018 rain event, which this is characterized by DEQ as a hazardous structure. This proposal is used to earmark funds from the Water Quality Improvement Fund. The fund is a longstanding program for water quality projects. Water Quality Improvement Fund is getting an automatic deposit of $73 million this year. This deposit is statutorily driven. It's in the governor's budget. This budget amendment requests that the $5 million be earmarked for College Lake in the program. And I've been told that there's precedence for using earmarking money from WQIF funds for special projects such as this. I'll tell the committee that City of Lynchburg, through Senator Newman and through the years, has spent approximately $300 million on its combined sewer overflow to protect the Chesapeake Bay.
Right.
And this College Lake, if it damned, if it were to bust, like it almost did last time, would have sent an incredible number of contaminants right down the James River into the Chesapeake Bay, kind of wiping out some of the $300 million of work that we have done to protect that bay. So I think these funds can be used for that. We would like to use these funds to further the protection of the Chesapeake Bay and the citizens of Lynchburg.
Okay.
Whew. Item number 88, Mr. Chairman. Holiday Lake upgrades, general fund expenditure of $179,000. This budget amendment requests matching funds for upgrade at the Holiday Lake facility. The facility leases land from the Virginia Department of Forestry, so it cannot borrow money. The facility needs to upgrade its 34-year-old pool. It needs ground maintenance equipment, a generator, and wiring upgrades to get electricity distributed over the property. There's also an upgrade needed to the PA system. And both the generator and the PA system are needed for operations. And sometimes Appomattox Public Schools relocate their students there in an emergency, which is their plan. So this would be to upgrade that facility.
Okay.
All right, I think this is my final one, Mr. Chairman. Item number 391, Department of Corrections. This is up for payment in lieu of taxes. This is a fairness bill that reimburses localities for services rendered to corrections facilities in their jurisdiction. And Virginia Code Section 58.1-3403 states that notwithstanding provisions of 58.1-3400, a service charge may be levied on real property owned by the Commonwealth if the value of all such property exceeds 3% of the value of all real property located there. The service charge shall be based on the assessed value of the state-owned tax-exempt real estate and the amount which the county, city, or town expended in the year preceding the year in which such charge is assessed for the purpose of furnishing police and fire protection and for collection and disposal of refuse. So this is eliminates a service charge exemption for the Department of Corrections, which would help many localities and counties, including Buckingham and Fluvanna, which are in my district, and Greensville, Richmond, Southampton, Sussex, and Wise. So the total of this is $1,286,133.
Okay.
And I think that's all I have, Mr. Chairman.
Okay. And you had a bill yesterday also that will have some financial implications that we put the clause on, so we'll have to look at that as well.
And do we have any of that information? I did not bring that.
We don't need that now.
Okay.
No, we'll look at that.
All right. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Any questions?
Thank you, Senator Peake.
Thank you, guys.
Okay, let's see, is there none who has come in? Senator Stanley? Senator Lewis?
I'm right here, Mr. Chairman. I can talk fast.
All right.
I'm not going to hit on all of these, Mr. Chairman. I mean,
Okay.
I know most of them are self-explanatory. Some of them I think need a little more fleshing out, so I'm going to touch on them briefly. And the first one is, I believe, the first one, which is 106. It comes to me from the Eastern Shore Broadband Authority. We have a very successful broadband authority. They are in the positive as far as cash goes, and they've committed to a significant build-out in what you can imagine on the Eastern Shore is a pretty challenging environment, both from the economy and from the infrastructure piece of it. They found out that the Virginia Telecommunications Initiative funds cannot be accessed by them. And so this is strictly a language amendment that would allow them as a broadband authority to access these funds. So that's it in a nutshell.
That seems reasonable.
And again, they're on a very positive path with extending broadband out to some rural areas in a challenging environment. The next one, Mr. Chairman, is 159. And this one, Mr. Chairman, it does require some funding. It goes to VIMS. We are in the process of trying to get a 3x3 core study for the Chincoteague Inlet. And what has happened there, and I'll make sure to get pictures of this to you all, is a very dramatic change in that inlet. so that now there is a straight shot from the ocean essentially into the one end of Chincoteague Island. Chincoteague obviously is a huge cash revenue source for tourism, but also there are some impacts, conceivable impacts on the Mid-Atlantic Spaceport. So what we're trying to do is get a head start on this 3x3 study. We've met with the Corps. VIMS has done some work out there to do a sand migration model, and that's going to involve a whole lot of things, including the Toms Cove area and the National Seashore there about the migration of the sands. So if we can do this, it will go a long way to helping us qualify for this Army Corps study, and it has some significant ramifications for all of us. So,
Okay.
Next one, Mr. Chairman, is 366, and that's pretty straightforward. I just want to highlight it for you. We have, on the eastern shore of Virginia, there's a unique aquifer situation. We draw from the Yorktown aquifer. It is, as DEQ tells me, a very fragile one, and we're experiencing some saltwater intrusion on that. And so this would comes from the Planning District Commission, is seeking some funding for some monitoring for the saltwater intrusion issue. And then finally, Mr. Chairman, is one I'm just going to ask you to get rid of, and that is 334. We've had some discussions about trying to establish an adult abuse registry. And what I plan to do is ask Chairman Reeves with Rehab to ask the appropriate agencies to give us a number next session so that we know, get a fine point on how much
Good.
it would cost.
I appreciate that
25
request.
states have done that, and it's an important thing for us to discuss, Mr. Chairman.
Okay.
All right, that's it for me, Mr. Chairman.
Okay.
Thank you all.
I was out on Chincoteague last summer. Assateague Island is about as busy as Virginia Beach.
It
there
is,
now.
I
It's
think.
amazing.
Yes, sir, Mr. Chairman. I think it is. It has one of the highest visit rates of any of the national parks, wildlife refuges.
Yeah.
So it's pretty busy.
All right. Thank you.
Yes, sir.
Thank you, Senator Lewis. Senator Marsden,
I'm going to add Senator Stanley is.
he was over
Yeah,
here.
Yeah, you've got, so I can remove it. Sudaline is the only one.
Sudaline, I've got him here. He's just not in here yet.
I'm going to put him on this
Okay.
reduced paper.
Okay, thank you. Senator Marsden, good to have you here this afternoon.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I have item 329, number 2S.
Okay. Y'all still busy across the aisle there?
Yeah, we're still
Okay,
agging it out.
all right. Dogging it out. All right. Go ahead when you're ready. I
Thank you,
think they
Mr.
got it
Chairman.
up.
This is a $6 million request for the 19 through 20 cycle. What we're seeking here is an amendment that provides $6 million from the general fund in fiscal year 2020 for the vocational rehabilitation services program to help reduce the waiting list for services and open priority categories. As of November 1, 2017, all persons determined eligible for services from the Department for Aging and Rehabilitative Services are being placed on a waiting list due to limited resources. There are approximately 1,500 Virginians on this waiting list who are, the DARS waiting list, and waiting for vocational rehabilitation services. These individuals have disabilities that are a barrier to finding and often keeping a job. The vocational rehabilitation program serves approximately 30,000 people per year. By investing additional dollars in this program, you improve the lives of individuals with disabilities and their families. This is also an investment in Virginia's economy because a person who becomes employed buys goods and services and pays taxes on these purchases like everyone else. This investment enables the employees with a disability to become a tax-paying citizen. The money is federal match dollars. $1 million in state dollars adds an additional $4 million federal dollars into the vocational rehabilitation services program. This would allow all categories to be opened and all individuals who require services to be served. Employment empowers individuals, and we would ask that all of the organizations and advocates are in favor of this amendment. And that's what it will do, Mr. Chairman.
Assume that we spread across the various areas where we provide those services,
I believe that is the case.
including
Yes.
contracting with Goodwill and things like that?
Yes.
Okay. All right. Thank you on that
Okay.
one. Mhm. Yeah, they are.
Number
I'm using my iPad. But
395, number 1S.
You ready to take over then?
No, you're doing fine. I'm
Okay,
proud of you.
okay. Go ahead,
Thank you,
Senator Marshall.
Mr. Chairman. This is a two-year proposal to create in the cities of Stanton and Warrenton diversion programs, police diversion programs, as part of a restorative justice effort, attempting to replicate what we're doing in Fairfax County, which is allowing police officers, without even going to intake, to be able to refer young people to a mediation restorative justice program. And I can tell you from my work around the country, working with cities and states on youth violence reduction, the earlier the diversion, the better. The further you keep low-level cases away from the court, the better. And that's what this does. It's proven successful in Fairfax County, and we'd like to get it into some other places in the Commonwealth to make this happen, and those communities are supportive.
Okay, was there a specific recommendation for those two localities, or you just worked with them?
Yes, they have, their police departments have,
Requested that?
have requested that
Okay.
we do this.
Okay.
And thank you.
All right.
And the last one is related to a bill that has not yet been heard. What it is asking is for the Department of Corrections to keep data on any number of vulnerable inmates in the Department of Corrections and the use of solitary confinement, or what the department calls restrictive housing. And what this will do, we have two. One is a language amendment that just requires them to collect this data, and the other is $50,000 to assist them in the implementation of this. I think the Department of Corrections will tell you that they need a lot more money than that. But the bill has not yet been heard.
Right, okay.
But it is critical. We're just getting all kinds of conflicting information about what the conditions are in the department with regards to the restrictive housing of inmates, both short and long term.
Okay. Thank you, Senator Marshall.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Appreciate you being here. Is Senator Boysko still there? Oh, there you are. Okay. Good afternoon.
Good afternoon. So I have a number of budget amendments, but I'm only going to choose a few that I think could be helpful in informing you about what they're about, if that's okay with you all. The first one would be item 368, number 2S.
Okay.
This is asking that the DEQ create a technical assistance grants program for issuing grants to qualified groups to obtain technical assistance during a public comment period for permits. It would empower communities affected by projects that require permits from the State Water Board, the Air Pollution Control Board, the State Waste Management Board. Taxpayers would not be bearing the cost of these grants. This is a language amendment because permit fees, I'm asking that permit fees would cover those costs of the grant so that the companies that stand to benefit from the projects would bear that cost directly. And that's the first one.
Okay.
Do you want me just to roll through these, or did you want to
Just
have?
what you can prioritize them if you don't want to hit them
Sure.
all. Just whatever
Absolutely.
you want to do.
Absolutely. The second one is item 106, number 6S. This amendment would provide $10,000 in general funds to conduct a study prescribed in the resolution that I am offering. This would be conducted by the Housing and Community Development Department. Study would seek to analyze the best permitting practices for renewable energy and broadband projects. I'm still waiting for the fiscal impact, so we've made an estimate and determining whether or not we can have the cost covered by existing funds. This would be providing a study to see what the best way to analyze the permitting processes so that we can streamline them a little bit better.
Okay.
On renewables and broadband. Sharing mental health info is item 310, 6S. This would be in regard to creation of a work group to develop a plan for sharing inmate health information with community services boards so that local jails and community services boards can have a conversation and figure out how to do that while protecting.
Corrections is currently working on electronic health records, which are very costly.
Yes.
Yeah, right.
Would be right along that line. And then the final one that I wanted to bring up is, would be only contingent on us receiving federal funds to completely cover this. This is item 299, number 1S, for a controlled substance tracking system. We're hoping that with this bill, we would be eligible for a $3.3 million grant, federal grant, to create a substance-controlled tracking system as a pilot program to help combat opioid abuse. And with
Okay.
that, I
All right.
will let you
We
go.
appreciate that. You do have some bills that just, the funding would be driven by the bills themselves. We'll
Yes,
hear
sir.
later. Yeah. Thank you very much
Thank
for
you.
taking time to present your initiatives.
Thank you.
Appreciate it. Let's go. Mason, yes, you're
Yes, sir.
up. Senator Mason?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. If we could start with item 344, number 2S, which also goes along with 3S and 4S. This is really critically important money for the new Families First legislation. So the federal government changed the way we do child welfare, and we're going to have to reorient our entire system. First time since 1981. Good news is we're putting money towards preventative measures. Bad news is we don't have a lot of preventative measures because it's never been reimbursed. 2S, goes to school on using a structure that the Department of Juvenile Justice is using 2 companies to try to help people provide service. And this speaks to trying to find companies that are providing evidence-based programs. And evidence-based is a very long list of criteria. They've only indicated about 12 or so that are going to qualify. So this is seed money to try to make sure the 12 are ready to play, and we have more in Virginia ready to go after that. And so this is evidence-based training. That goes along with 3S, which is money to try to help our residential treatment facilities today have to be qualified residential treatment facilities. 39 out of 141 of them are accredited facilities. That is but one of a 17 pages worth of requirement. This takes money and targets a third of those that are accredited today, so who may have a prayer in the short term of getting to the federally required reimbursable spot. So this is, again, seed money to go out and see, are we close in some facilities and get them ready to go. 4S, I hope, piggybacks off some work that you'll see from Senator Howell that speaks to the foster care, because we know if you're not even close to accreditation as a residential treatment facility for children, you're not going to get there anytime soon. There's a lower level that can provide some foster care work, and this also is trying to incent and to help organizations say, look, you're not going to make it. It's going to take you way too much to get to that level. We need service providers at a lower standard, not a lower standard, but a different level of what you provide, and that's money with an effort towards doing so there. Okay, this is all attached to the Family First legislation we'll hear tomorrow in rehab, sir.
Okay,
And then item C510, number 1S, this is William and Mary. We have a spectacular new president. If you haven't met her, I hope you will take the time to introduce yourself. She is big. She is digital technology learning up as a Shakespeare scholar. So this is trying to take what is a pretty rudimentary and poor film area and turn the lower basement of Swim Library, which is centrally located in campus, to an area that we can film. And we can take instruction and try to be more flexible. So you're taking physics, which I never did, but you need to bone up on calculus. We can do a 20-hour we can do a module on calculus that the student could come in, bone up on the calculus skills and stay in the physics class. But this will revitalize it and set it up so the professor can go in, utilize the sound equipment, the technological equipment to put these things on film so the students can come in. It's all an effort to be more flexible and keep students moving along. C44, number 20, 2S, that's Christopher, that's just language, I'm sorry. But let me see, I got the wrong number there. Christopher Newport is asking for operating assistance. We've been extremely helpful to them as far as building new buildings, but they're spending a lot of money on M&O, maintenance and operations, as we all know. They're trying to get in on the technological and the computer science game as far as providing more graduates. So they've asked for some maintenance and operations money for some of the new, to try to focus on instructional and being able to meet the STEM requirements that we've been speaking about. We talked last year on 464, number 4S. Fort Eustis has a security problem on their gate. It's too close to a new development, and the city is acquiring the land to move the gate and bring it up to Homeland Security standards. We are getting money in the 2023 defense budget, which, believe it or not, they're talking about now. You think they're having the problem with the one they got, but they're talking about 2023. We have to put up money, and the city will match this money in order to acquire land and reorient the gate. Believe it or not, it also helps with the backup off of Interstate 64, but the 3 lanes have done a pretty good job of that as well. Maybe the last one, if I'm running out of my time, item 83, number 6S. I know every year we come to you and talk to you about registrars, haven't gotten a pay raise since like 1981. So this isn't asking for a bunch of money to give it to them. This is language that just would say we've done, that's copied off of what we've done for other constitutional officers, that we just look at over the next year. How do they compare to other constitutional officers as far as compensation and how they've been paid? Okay. And that, number 159, number 2S is $200,000 for graduate student research. There is some money in the governor's budget for subaqueous grasses and VIMS. This is coinciding with that. And I will leave it at that, Mr. President.
Okay.
Mr. Chairman.
Thanks, Senator Mason.
You're
focusing a bit on foster care this year. Started the foster care caucus, the Families First legislation. So
yes, sir.
That's good.
Well, it's important stuff, Mr. Chairman. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you. Senator Stanley, I believe you're up next.
Mr. Chairman, good evening. Yeah, here. At least I can talk about them if I don't see them in the final report. Mr. Chairman, we'll just start from the top. The first one is, if you recall, I put in bills to reform the Virginia criminal discovery rules. Through that effort, we then carried that bill over to allow the Supreme Court to put together a commission, which they then did using Virginia Court of Appeals Judge Humphreys. From that, they were able to come up with an agreed-upon reformation of the discovery rules, and which makes discovery much more open and much more accessible for those that are charged with crimes and brought before the bar of justice. However, Chief Justice Lemons, in our conversation, said that his concern is that in the implementation in larger areas like Fairfax and Loudoun, those kind of counties where they have higher volumes of discovery, and a lot of our smaller counties, we already have open file discovery process, and that really is not going to change. But in the ones that have been living stringently to the old rule, he believed that there was going to need to be addressed by this General Assembly some monetary concerns to help that transition occur in some of these Commonwealth's attorneys' offices. So what this does on item 35, number 1S, is adds $500,000 from the general fund to implement the new criminal discovery rules. If you do recall, those criminal discovery rules are not in effect yet. They are delayed for 1 year for exactly this, which is to try to see if there's a financial measure by which we can give to the Supreme Court so they can utilize the discovery rules. The second one, item 66, number 3S, of course, is a raise for all non-entry level sworn deputy sheriffs, an increase of annual salary of $1,000. I would ask also too, ladies and gentlemen, and you probably know this, but I only found out every time we give the deputy sheriffs a raise, what we're finding in a lot of communities is that the counties who supplement those deputy salaries is taking the equal percentage away. So we give them a 2% raise, and then they take it away. But then they reduce their local compensation number by 2%. So our deputies don't get a raise. What we're doing is feeding the locality and offsetting and reducing their requirements in the supplements they provide to their officers. So in this, and what we're asking for is, I think they deserve a lot more, especially sheriff's deputies that handle everything from jailhouse, transport, courthouse security, and investigations and traffic. We are way under paying our deputies. And on top of that, Mr. Chairman and members of this committee, here's what bothers me the most. We have between an attrition rate of between 19 and 21% per year. 20% turnover of our deputies who are leaving, and a lot of them are leaving and taking jobs in my area like driving a log truck because it pays better. We have deputies, Mr. Chairman and Mr. Chairman, in my area who, because of the number of children that they have, are living on public and eligible for public assistance. That's deplorable. And this is something that we need to address, and this budget amendment, as proposed, tries to do that. On top of that, in order to keep the best and the brightest, the next budget amendment, which is 66, number 4S, includes an appropriation for an increase of the elected sheriffs of $10,000 in order to make sure that we're keeping and maintaining the best chief administrators in those areas. Mr. Chairman, I want to make sure that I hope that what I've proposed here for a deputy sheriff is a floor, is a basement, and that you all can even increase that so that they have a ceiling. They're so deserving of our attention, and we need to keep those good people in those jobs. Mr. Chairman, item 106, number 2S, is the $5 million appropriation for the Virginia Grocery Investment Fund, which this committee passed out earlier. Yes. And as you know, and just to say, for that $5 million, we would have $3 of private investment for every dollar. So that would include $15 million of private investment to be put back with that $5 million, which would mean $20 million in total investment for the grocery fund, which can significantly help underserved areas, food desert areas in the inner cities and the rural areas who need to have fresh alternatives for food that will ultimately make better their health outcomes. The next budget amendment, item 213, number 1S, provides an additional $158,000 for, we have the A.L. Philpott Manufacturing Extension Partnership. We have Gen Edge, which is a great company that administers that. Many of you all probably know A.L. Philpott was a wonderful guy from my area back when we had more population than Fairfax. And so therefore, he was running things. But this manufacturing extension partnership now can expand the pool of what they're doing, and especially workforce training, workforce hooking those people up with proper jobs throughout the whole state, and not just in Southside and Southwest Virginia. The next item, Mr. Chairman, is item 346, number 5S, which this is the TANF. This is the $800,000 needed for the TANF, Temporary Assistance for Needy Families block grant to fund the scholarships for those TANF-eligible children so that they can attend our community colleges at a rate of $4,000 per year, and which is basically, in effect, the ability to get a 2-year an associate's degree or a credential or certification from our community colleges for free. So that is what that provides for. The next one, item 3355, number 1S, gives $250,000 in the second year. It's a bump up for the low vision service at the Department of the Blind and Vision Impaired. We're basically trying to increase the ability of that department to maximize people's ability through a community-based service vision rehabilitation process. And the next item, members of the committee, is 391, number 7S. And so that is basically, that is for any crime bill that I've done that changes the crime, that adds $50,000 for the indeterminate amount that might change the corrections. That is really, that actually affects, we put in a bill that got out of Ag today that actually makes a law with regard to those that abuse animals with the intent to harm basically the owner and in a jilted relationship, and carries a misdemeanor up to a felony for severe torture and killing of companion animals in those circumstances. The next one, 419. 419, number 3S, you do not have to worry about because they killed that thing about 20 minutes ago.
Okay.
So you can strike that, buddy. I just saved you $100,000. So that was great. And
is that the only one we can strike?
Well, I'm thinking you might have some other ones, sir.
Look at a couple others.
Finally, and item 474, number 17S. Now, what I found in is certainly I've been talking to Virginia law enforcement officers, and there's, in the Valors program, we move the time for a benefit, which is an additional retirement allowance from the law enforcement officer's 65th birthday. Well, it aligns, we have a glitch where we have some of our officers, like those in DGIF and some other ABC, and it's a very small pool, members of the committee, a very small pool, but we're basically treating them differently than the other in terms of the date of retirement and when they get this special dispensation. So what this basically does is make them as equal as they should be. And I think maybe it was an oversight. It looks like to me when that law was amended to 65, it appeared to be an oversight. The number on that is $2.8 million. It is a very limited pool of retired law enforcement under the Valors program. But I think, quite frankly, they deserve it, and we should treat them for the service that they gave us, this great Commonwealth of Virginia. And that concludes my presentation, this stellar presentation. And I thank you for
Okay.
approving all of my budget amendments ahead of time.
We'll be looking at, Senator Stanley, you've had an eventful afternoon, I'm sure, with the Ag Committee.
Yes, sir. It was
Yeah,
very
right.
eventful. But
Thank
you
you.
won't-
Thank
You won't
you.
have to see half of my dog and cat bills, okay? But if I may say, Senator Hanger, I did get to see history today because I believe Senator Norman had his first dog bill.
Oh,
And
he
it
had a dog
passed,
bill,
yes.
too?
We were very
I had a lot
impressed.
of bills that were dogs before.
All right.
Very
thank
proud of you, Tom.
Thanks, Senator Stanley. Senator Suderline, you've been busy over there in the Ag Committee. You want to tell us about a couple of yours?
You only need to pull up that last one. And thank you. I tried to do my best in the Senate Ag Committee for you, Senator Hanger.
Thank
and,
you. I appreciate that.
You helped defeat some bad bills there. So I've got a few other budget amendments that you'll see. Hopefully, if those, they're all based on bills that hopefully will be reported by the Policy Committee for your all's consideration. The one budget amendment I have that is not related to a bill is the same budget amendment I presented last year. You see the explanation. It simply reads, this amendment provides that no expenditures from general or non-general fund sources out of any appropriation by the General Assembly may be expended for abortion services other than that required by federal law. This is the Hyde Amendment. I don't think that the Commonwealth should be spending tax dollars on ending innocent life, and I hope that'll be something that you all will consider in HHR.
Okay.
And that's it.
That's it. Well, thank you for presenting that. That's an issue we've struggled with for several years, so we'll certainly have it on the table again. Hopefully, we can work that out. Okay. DeSep, Senator DeSep.
Mr. Chairman, as a member of the committees, I'm going to be very, very quick.
Okay.
Item 1, number 2, it fully funds our second legislative aid to include benefits. Item 6, number 2, this is the Friends of the Chesapeake Bay license plate, which I carry every year. We do every year. This just allocates the money going into the fund. Number 126, number 5, this amendment provides a peer support and recovery program for Virginians with PTSD, and it's in partnership with the Spearhead Trails Initiative.
Mm-hmm.
Number 363, number 1, this adds $50,000 to the general fund for the second year for First Landing Bike Facility. This completes that project, doing the mountain bike trail around First Landing. And then item 453, number 2S, this one comes under the CTB priority for recreational access roads for handicap access to our state parks. First Landing State Park is our most visited state park in the Commonwealth. It actually provides money back to the general fund. We have a lot of the trails in there that have limited access to handicapped individuals, and this allows using CTB money for that access. And, Mr. Chairman, members of the committee, that's it.
Thank you, Senator DeSteff. Appreciate you sharing. Is there, the private money is going, as we were talking, into that First Landing project as well?
Yes, sir. We have different groups that are putting in labor, putting in money, putting in everything you could imagine.
Right. Okay. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Have a
All right.
fantastic day. Sorry I was so long.
You were too long. We kept you waiting quite a while, though. Okay, as we have some others. Senator Locke? Oh, Senator Peterson.
Mr. Chair, members of the committee, this will be very brief. I want to focus on three requests that I have, budget amendments. First one is item 41, number 4S. This is the additional judge for the 19th Judicial Circuit, which is Fairfax County, Fairfax City. It was actually a bill we just passed today in terms of the authority. The merits on it is basically right now, each general district court judge in Fairfax County is handling approximately 34,000 cases per year. The statewide average is in the neighborhood of 23,000. We currently have 11. The state court studies show we are entitled to 12.2. Even if you round that down into an extremely complicated algorithm, it can run down to 11, but the Committee on District Courts recommended that we be put at 12, and so we're asking for 12. We have a very busy general district court, and with all the hot lanes and everything else, the bottom line is we need to have the funding of $154,000 in order to meet this.
Okay,
So
is this one that hasn't been authorized yet, I suppose? We in the second year of the budget, we attempted to fund all the authorized positions, but this one hasn't been authorized yet?
It has not. We just passed the bill today.
Did today? Okay.
Yes.
Okay.
So things are changing even as we speak. Number two, number 162, item 162 is George Mason University. This is a request for $3.8 million in additional funding over the biennium. 3.8 million, which would be general fund, matched by 3.8 million, 3.85 million in non-general fund. George Mason University has been the fastest growing university in the Commonwealth for probably about 30 years now. I saw a statistic, and it may have come from the GMU president, that 40% of the enrollment growth in state universities has come through George Mason. It's really exploded in growth, and you know, we need more funding. Need more funding for our Fairfax campus, our Arlington campus, and so they asked me to carry that, and obviously I'm happy to do that. So having said that, that's kind of the biggest dollar item, and I'm going to move to the smallest dollar item, which is number 374, number 3S. This is the Jeremiah Moore House, and ladies and gentlemen of the Senate, I know very little about what I do here, but I know a little bit about history. And Jeremiah Moore was actually the first Baptist preacher in Virginia. He was actually put in jail by the British colonial authorities, and he preached through the bars of the jailhouse because he was preaching without a license. In those days, you had to be licensed by the Church of England in order to preach the gospel. He was then tried for what was effectively blasphemy and was acquitted by a jury because they did have a right of jury trial. So it was one of the first issues of jury nullification. To make an extremely long story short, he later became a farmer in Fairfax County. In fact, the site of the Vienna Metro was where he had his farm and where he continued to preach. There's a development there called Moorfield, and he actually petitioned then Governor Thomas Jefferson to write the statute on religious freedom, presented those signatures to him, and this is before you had online petitions, which I tend to get one of those emails every 30 seconds. So he actually did that, and really was in a lot of ways the inspiration for the religious freedom. He knew George Mason personally. When Mason submitted his Fairfax County resolves, became the Bill of Rights. Jeremiah Moore was the religious freedom test case that he was thinking about. Jeremiah Moore was a resident of Vienna, Fairfax County resident. His grandson Thomas moved to the town of Fairfax, and his family still lives there. Bottom line is he's a local citizen we're very proud of, and I've convinced the city of Fairfax to move forward on making a monument to him, basically putting his house back together and putting it in downtown Fairfax, and we would seek $25,000 in matching funds. I'm sure Senator Norman can find that under the couch cushions to do that, but we put that. He'll write the check right now, but that would be in the Department of Historic Resources. So I've gone from the sublime to the ridiculous, and that is, and back.
There are a couple ways to approach that. We've got the Virginia Land Conservation Foundation has some for historic resources through the grant funding if we put some money there.
There you go. You push that money wherever, and I'll go find it. All righty. Okay. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Senator Peterson. Senator Locke, you are up next and maybe the last speaker.
Am I the last between you and leaving?
Yeah, but you.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'd like to start with item 41, number 3S. And the Housing Commission conducted a study on evictions in the interim. And one of the recommendations coming out of our study was to establish an eviction diversion program in the cities of Hampton, Danville, Petersburg, and Richmond. And so this amendment provides $355,300 in the second year from the general fund for an eviction diversion pilot program in the general district courts for those 4 cities, and contingent upon passage of Senate Bill 1450 of the 2019 session.
Okay.
Item 374, number 5S. This amendment provides funding for the 609 eligible graves located in the city of Hampton for the Bassett, Elmonton, Tucker family, Queen Street, and Pleasant Shade cemeteries in support of Senate Bill 1128. Item 303, number 9S. This amendment provides $7 million from the general fund and a like amount of federal Medicaid funds the second year in order to fund the fiscal impact of Senate Bill 1132, which amends the state plan for Medicaid assistance to provide for a reproductive health care program to reimburse medically necessary reproductive health care services, drugs, devices, products, and procedures for eligible individuals. And this supports Senate Bill 1132.
Okay.
Item 395, number 5S, is in support of Senate Bill 1130. This amendment would provide $50,000 general fund for potential additional costs to the Department of Criminal Justice Services for provision of subject matter training of school resource officers. And finally, item C47, number 1S. This amendment provides the Fort Monroe Authority with an additional $32.7 million in bond proceeds in the first year to fund critical capital projects. And I'm done. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you, Senator Locke. We'll look more closely at that capital request there. I'm not sure where that is in the scheme of things. Okay, I don't believe there are any other senators here. Thank all the members for your attention. We had a rather long, drawn-out process here, but a lot of the senators showed up, so the committee will rise.
Jeez, I thought you were pretty